It is now 4:03. I call this meeting to order. Members present include Vice Chair Robert Levenheim, Supervisor Brian Barrett, myself, Chairman Jacob Pride, our Office Manager Julia Heilica, and our Engineer John Tressler. Our first order of business is approving minutes from the September 28th regular business meeting, October 12th work session, October 20th budget work session, October 26th regular business meeting, and the October 27th budget work session. Do I hear a motion on those draft minutes?
Jacob, I'm looking to see, to make sure that I'll make that motion, and if there's a meeting that I did not participate in, I'd recuse myself there.
Okay, I hear a motion, or I hear
it looks good.
A motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Let the record reflect that Brian recused himself from the minutes. He was not part of public comments on the agenda. There is no one on Zoom with us, and there is no one in the room. We have no unfinished business, public hearings, or plans to act on. Our first order of business under new business is consider escrow agreements and professional service agreements with Nicholas Delvecchio, Michael De Silva, and Scannell Properties, and Frank Riccobono. Julia, do you want to?
Sure. These are on the agenda today because the board changed the way we do our escrow, especially the septic system and applications. Actually, if you don't mind, Ron wanted to talk to you about these and what the next steps are, who should sign them, et cetera. Seeing as he's not with us today, if it's okay if we table all of these until the regular business meeting, we can address them then.
Okay.
There's nothing pressing.
No, it's a matter of signing the agreements, determining who signs them, determining fees, or what fees the developer needs to replenish the escrow to. Those are things that while you agreed on the agreement, did not decide at that time, so it's just a conversation that you will need to have with Ron, and as well as who signs them and whatnot.
Do I hear a motion to table?
I'll do that.
Motion by Mr. Barrett. Do I hear a second? Second, Mr. Levenheim. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is consider township intent to appoint an independent auditor to conduct the 2021 audit. This is an essential motion made each year in order to know that the elected auditors will not be making the actual audit themselves. It'll be out to an independent professional firm. Consequently, the next motion is advertising, as is required yearly. So do I hear a motion on our intent to appoint an independent auditor to conduct the 2021 audit?
I'll make it.
Motion by Mr. Barrett.
Second.
Second by Mr. Levenheim. Questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next item is advertising public notice for the request for CPA services for the 2021 financial audit. I'll move that we make the advertisement per the regulation. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Levenheim. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item is considering advertising public notice for the 2022 budget when available for inspection and adoption. This is just to make sure that we have our authorization to advertise when we are completed or when we are done with that. So, do I hear a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Levenheim. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Barrett. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next up, Robert, do you want to talk about the Oak Grove newsletter?
It was discussed at the last Oak Grove meeting, doing this twice a year. I think it's a very good idea because most of our residents, I think, are unaware of that Oak Grove exists, or that, as we discussed in the last meeting, even if they don't have a truck to come up and take away compost, we're planning to bag it so people can get it. And I think we should just make it more known, and twice a year sounds like a good idea to remind people that it's there, especially since we have leaves in the fall and we have leaves in the spring.
Right. I remember at the Oak Grove meeting, they mentioned that they would put this in for reimbursement in a grant. So are we looking at the municipalities involved splitting a portion of it? I think, that was the idea.
Yeah.
Did they have a figure on us, or?
I don't know if we had a figure, did we?
It'd be all three of us, Robert? It'd be all three of us, Lehman, Middle, and
Yeah, and
prorated.
yeah, it was hard to find a figure because we haven't done it, and also the only comparable figures would be Middle Smithfield's newsletter, which is 4 times a year.
So they're asking, this is the email that you would send to all of us on the 29th. They would ask $2,189.66, which is 22%, which is essentially how much of usage we get out of Oak Grove. Oh.
Is that how they prorated, Jacob?
Yeah, Middle Smithfield 47%, Lehman 31%, Smithfield 22%.
So it's a good deal.
Considerably cheaper than Middle Smithfield pays for their newsletter, but then their newsletter is printed on gold paper, so it's a bargain.
Okay, so do I hear a motion then, on whether or not Smithfield will provide the,
I'll make a motion that we, pay the amount specified and that we be part of this.
I'll second that motion, Jim.
okay, motion by Mr. Levenheim and second by Mr. Barrett. Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next up is discussing the 1% for Nature grant application. Julia, do you wanna preface that for us?
Sure. This 1% for Nature grant, the grant round opens on December 15th, 2021, and the application deadline is February 1st of 2022. The 1% for Nature grant is a mini grant. The largest ask that we can go for is $2,500 with a 50-50 match, meaning we would supply $2,500, they would give us $2,500, so we have a project that's up to $5,000. This is something that we should consider applying for if the board wants to. While I sent the email out to you with the information, you did have some ideas that got back to me, which included tree planting to repair the riparian buffer along Minnesota Park, purchasing a bear-proof trash can from Mount Nebo, purchasing a wheelchair-accessible picnic table for the picnicking area where the vision loss trail will be, or even considering plantings across the front of Waterfront Park to aid the bees and the butterfly habitat in this area. So my question to the board is, first off, do you want to apply for this grant? And if you do, what would you like to apply for? We don't need a decision tonight.
Good.
But we should discuss it, and if I could get direction by next regular business meeting, that'll give me a little bit over 2 weeks to put everything together.
I think that makes sense. I know that we had talked about, trash receptacles for like Mount Nebo and River's Edge, and, like, part of it, each receptacle costs about $2,500. So if we did 2 or something like that.
I have not found the exact ones that we have in Waterfront Park at this time, but I did find a bear-proof one that's close.
Right.
And that ran us about, their ask was about $2,000 for that.
Okay. All right. Any thoughts? All right. I do need to say that, we had an executive session this morning regarding personnel, from Scott.
Before we get to that, can I add a G here, just, get this out of the way?
Yes, you have to do it through Jacob. You have to do it through Jacob, that new.
Well, I'm asking if you.
Well, you have to move to, what's the item?
It's in addition to the engineering fee, the vision loss trail, which I didn't know about until Missy and I walked it Monday, so there was no way I could get into the agenda.
All right, Sure, you have to move to add that to the agenda
All
then.
right. I move that we add a G to the agenda, Vision Lost Trail engineering fees.
That needs a second, Chair?
Yeah,
I'll second it.
okay. All in favor of the addition?
Aye.
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 What we discussed and we've walked the trail is this. The current, grant and the engineering fee covers the first 225 feet of the trail, which is much longer than what the trail will be as far as the sculptures and so forth. But, what I realized is we could put the first of the forest play pods essentially at the end of what the trail will be. And by rerouting it that way, rather than going into the forest behind the soccer field and putting in, a boardwalk and everything that was the subject of a grant last year that we were turned down on, we'd pretty much be all set to be able to, apply for another grant for the development of a play pod, with equipment and so forth. What it would take is, just, extending, first of all, the trail maybe another 75 feet, I'm not sure, or 50 feet. And, she felt that the engineering survey fee would go up by $3,500. So we're already under what the grant was because, Boucher and James's estimate was so far under, what Brian Smith was at Barry Eyes. It's not like we can't afford it, and to not do it, I think, is, penny wise and pound foolish, because by spending the $3,500, we've got all the engineering. If we want to apply for another grant for what we put there, that part is done. It can go in with the grant proposal. John, would you want to speak to this? Because, you've reviewed what Missy has done.
Yeah, I did review it with Missy, and, yeah, as long as we're doing it with the original project, we've got to do a little bit more survey work, and there'll probably be another sheet added to the plans, which is why we had to increase our costs a little bit. But, I think that would be wise to do it now, because if you told us to do it separately, it might cost twice that to get it done, because we'd have to go back out and do everything else. The other thing we could do, I know you're trying to do all this work with grants. We don't know what the other work's gonna come in at. We could bid it, maybe in 2 phases, and maybe you could get this done partially under the current grant. We don't know what those numbers are gonna be, and if it comes in high, then you just eliminate it as a phase this time and wait until you get, grant money to do it in the future, like you just said, Robert.
Yeah, so in other words, we'd have this part accomplished. We could take that other part and say, okay, here's the engineering, it's all done, this is what we're gonna apply for.
Right.
Anyway, that's where it stands, and I'll make a motion that we approve an increase of $3,500 in the engineering fee for the Vision Lost Trail to cover this.
And that's with Barry Isaac, Robert?
This is now through Boucher and James. Barry Isaac, remember, was a figure, I think about $35,000, and Boucher and James came in at a little less than $22,000. So we're actually under budget at this point in the whole project.
Make that motion now, then?
I just made it, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you did? I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Levine, second by Mr. Barrett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
John, will you, prepare an addendum to that contract for us?
Yep.
Okay. Next, as I was saying this morning, we had an executive session from 10:59 to 11:57 regarding personnel. Now, I know that the board hadn't made a decision earlier. Do we want to temporarily enter executive session before we come out with a decision? Or do we want to do that now?
I think given the angst on all sides about this, we should do it now.
All right. Well, one, I would move that we add consideration of a personnel decision onto the agenda based on the necessity to act. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
So, my feeling after ruminating is that we should suspend the employee for a week without pay and remove the documents from their office that could potentially be problematic, that caused, what we had discussed earlier.
And let me just, comment on Jacob's position. I agree. And what we've got to do is, as we talked earlier, we really got a lot of strengthening and coordination to do in this whole thing. It's tough. It's tough all over the country, really, so that we know that what we do has some meat to it.
Right.
Second consequence and could lead up to including dismissal.
Right.
Okay.
Where would we put these documents?
I think they could go into Julia's office.
Why not Lynn's?
Like, they could go there locked up too.
I have not discussed this with Lynn. I don't know if she has the under lock and key.
She does, but the fact of the matter is there's probably 1/3 of the stuff in her office should be shredded. It's old, it's antiquated, it's been bypassed.
Yeah, we
could do that.
Yeah, I've got a small pile, that is building for preparation for a resolution, for the board to sign off on. Now that we are, part of the records retention, if we want to destroy anything, we have to pass a resolution stating
Right.
what it is, and that we plan to destroy it between this time frame and this time frame. We can absolutely work on going through our documents and add to that pile.
Well, in the interim, I would be much more comfortable if, let's say, sensitive documents were either in Julia's office or somewhere else where Julia had the keys, so at least if anyone wants to see them or has to ask for them, know that the key has been given to them, the key should be given back, so it's kept in one place. How does everybody feel about that?
I think that makes sense. Doesn't necessarily have to be that specific in the motion, but I think that's how it should be.
And as for the first part, which was,
I move to suspend, the employee, her for a week without pay.
I think it's difficult to do that, it's harsh, but I think you have to do something, and that seems like a reasonable, suspension, right?
I'd like to
Well, I
have,
got a comment then to add. And again, I guess what I'm saying is this is a woman that's worked, Strasburg Borough in a managerial position, never had any complaints, came to us, worked for the sewer authority on her own, never had any complaints, and she came over at this is the first, I would say, serious goof up, but, a week of no pay, maybe she do it when there's a holiday, before days.
We have the holidays coming up,
Yeah.
so if the board did want to act now.
oh yeah, I would say it should be effective tomorrow, and then we'll call her and let her know.
So then if you do plan to do that, the township is off for Veterans Day, so it would only be, business days.
Well, we wouldn't be retroactive, would we? I don't know how that works.
Well, it's right, but it's upcoming, so depending on when you wanted to do this, that day could fall within the purview.
I think it should be effective tomorrow.
And, I keep thinking also that the situation could be flipped. It could be not Lois, but it could be Lynn, or it could be somebody else. I mean, it goes on around this office, just seems to be, bathed in too much, drama and, innuendo, and, I think somehow we have to cut through it and say, all right, this isn't gonna go on this way anymore.
That said, does anybody have any questions before we vote on the motion? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Nay.
Who seconded the motion? I have a motion by Jacob, I don't have.
Okay, I'll second it.
And, Robert and myself voted aye, and Chair voted no.
Okay.
All right, that said, our next line of business, and our final part of the public meeting here is paying our bills, the grand total of which is $41,798.99, which includes the typical items, including state workers' insurance fund, and paying for contracted staff and outside contractors on electric and the like. Does anyone have any questions?
I looked at the synopsis, Jacob, and, everything looks, almost standard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do I hear a motion on our bills? Motion by Mr. Levenheim, I'll second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any, we still don't have anyone on Zoom or in person, so does anyone else have anything before we should adjourn the public meeting?
I would say make one comment that nobody's on Zoom, but maybe somebody will listen to it. Just to inform the public that contrary to the Pocono record, I did win the election.
That's right.
What do they say? What does the record say?
I think the first edition had you down.
I keep hearing from people who are giving me condolences.
Well, yeah, the first position had you
Oh,
down
you
over
were-
100 points, and I was saying to Colette and Missy, I said, what the hell's going on here? And,
Oh, come on, John, you were already congratulating the other guy.
I didn't even know who the other guy was.
Nobody did.
It didn't matter.
No,
All right. Well,
election, congratulations.
Yes,
Thank you.
congratulations, Robert.
yes, sir.
So they're calling in with condolences.
All right. Do I hear a motion?
I only quoted Mark Twain, who said, was it,
Reports of my death are greatly
yeah,
exaggerated.
reports of my death are greatly exaggerated, right?
All right.
So, with that, you want a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, would you like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Mr. Levenheim, I'll second. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned, aye, we are adjourned at 4:26 PM.
Short and sweet.